Good morning.
Ta-da, good morning. It is morning for us, at least.
Yeah, early morning.
Yeah. Yeah, how are we doing?
I'm doing okay. It's almost Christmas.
Yes, it is.
And so we can look forward to that and start planning our new year.
Yeah, crazy. This year has been a shit show, I think, for many. But it's also, yeah, I mean, this is kind of living in history, which I think is cool. Which I thought about when we had the first lockdown was that we actually live like you always read about historical events, and now this is definitely like a historical event.
Yeah.
And yeah, so, and usually out of historical events you get new pivots and new things happening, and you can only hope for that this is pivoting in the right direction and not into another 1933 or something like that. So
It's weird though, because I think about this often, and some days you forget because, there's like, we've never lived in a time where like we've heard bombs going off, or a country where we've heard bombs going off or anything. So it's like, it's quite, it's just kind of quiet out. And, but amidst this kind of chaos. And so, but then you turn on the news and you hear that in like the UK that like the virus is like mutating, and I don't know, for me it's like we're finished, it's all over.
Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts about that, but it seems to me a bit that this virus came like 20 years ago. This virus would have been not really taken that serious, and there would be some more casualties, I guess, but I think we are now living by the consequences of social media, and the media also be in a very particular position where like old media has been more or less dying off, and this is like the perfect thing for media companies, right? Because this keeps people's attention to them all the time, and the media, like traditionally, media has been the trusted source for real information. And now, from following American politics for a couple of years, looking at the Fox channel, or looking at NBC or whatever shows, it's going to be somehow mirrored in and tainted from what their agenda is.
Right. Yeah.
But again, if it's Fox News or if it's whatever news, they're all having their best year ever. Like they're doing so good, and they have all the people's attention. And if there's anything that might be a news story, especially on the virus now, if it's a mutation or it has a second cousin or something, that's going to be huge news all the time. And they're drawing all these conclusions immediately, like it's a super spreading version and blah blah blah. And then you have some guy expert or whatever, and he's like, it could be, and then it's like, okay, it could be, you see?
Yeah.
And this is kind of where I feel the trustworthiness is decreasing, at least in my eyes. And again, the social media thing is also one thing that it really triggers action. It's not only in the pandemic, but in all issues. Like we had that in the Black Lives Matter thing, and like we have that in the environmental thing. It's just this urge of I don't know, urge to action becomes very, very, very strong, because people are feeling that if you don't act, if you don't do this and so on, you're gonna be, it's gonna be bad for your marketing or your reputation and so on. So right now, like for the politics and everything, it's just you have to act now, and everyone is just in this chaos. And my personal opinion is that it has escalated very far, and I'm not only because of the virus, but in a lot of matters is escalating because the politics are just so scared of their reputations right now, because anything can spread within a second. And it's a Twitter thing, and the media, the traditional media, is also, quoting stuff on Twitter, which is also like, what's the journalism in this? Like, what's the investigating journalism in this? No, it has to be like this
immediate,
this.
Yeah.
And I know this, like one of my neighbors, he's a top guy within media. He said, like, nobody wants to pay for investigating journalism, right? And this was, he told me years ago, but sorry, I can't work on a piece for weeks or months anymore. It has to be done overnight. And I mean, all these bigger things are like from the news from the media companies, like I don't want to, they don't want to put money into something that might not be clickbaity.
Right.
Yeah. So has to be really guaranteed big news.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was not what we're here talking about.
No, we're not talking about the new state, but it's a very interesting topic. But today, we are going to talk about some, big misconceptions in the CrossFit world. And so we'll kind of take a look at a bunch of topics that come up for people. Maybe you've heard these, in your life outside of the box from friends or people that have never done it before, that don't really know so much about it. The first one that I thought we would talk about, which is always super interesting to me, is women. And women that have this idea, women that haven't done CrossFit have this idea that as soon as you start, the second day the day after you wake up after your first class, you're jacked, you're huge, and you're, muscly and big and masculine looking. And where does this idea come from?
I think it comes from maybe watching the CrossFit Games. And now, to be honest, my perception has also changed a lot, because when you see a lot of fit people, you don't really think about that so much. You really look at other people that are not fit, and you're like, whoa, he looks unhealthy. And then it's like, oh no, that's actually normal. But yeah, like the CrossFit Games, which is very exaggerated in one sense of how women's physique can look like. And I had a discussion with I talked about this with the owner of CrossFit Nordic. She's called Jenny. Hi, Jenny. She has pretty good biceps, to be honest. But she's an awesome woman, and we talked about that, and she said, women don't understand how much time and effort I put into actually building muscle, because just by exercising, I don't get muscle. She needed to do really specific training, really specific nutrition for it, and she said like a normal girl will not get that just from
going to the gym.
Right. And and then you have to talk about the genetics. There are some women have just those genetics.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at specifically the CrossFit Games, most of the women are shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So that means the muscles they build, they don't have so much bone structure to build it on. So the muscles have to be a bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But for normal women, you get definition for sure. Like especially if you drop fat.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at other examples in the CrossFit Games is like Haley Adams, which in my eyes she looks like she's fit, but she doesn't look like a jacked
like a slim fit girl.
And I'm so impressed by looking at her what she can perform and what she can do weight wise, performance wise, which is kind of an indication of also that you don't need to be like super bulky
mm-hmm.
to be able to be strong either. So she really demonstrates that. No, I'm super impressed by her, and I think I don't know if that concludes it, but I would just say for women, if you want to be bulky, that requires a lot of attention, a lot of devotion to become that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like if you look at the models in bodybuilding and so on, they are all taking steroids,
mm-hmm.
so or hormones. So it's if there's somebody out there that maybe doesn't do it, might happen, but most of them are on some kind of roids. But
right, and also I think you have to take into consideration that when photos are taken or during a physique competition or towards the games, they're in their peak of their programming and their nutrition, and so and especially for these physique competitions, they're completely dehydrated, and so 48 hours after the competition, once the spray tan is gone and the lights are gone and they've filled themselves up with water and maybe some extra carbohydrates, they look completely different. So I think when women see videos or photos or whatever, it's like they get this idea in their head that a week into doing CrossFit I'm gonna look like this. Well, no. And it's interesting because I've heard conversations from women about even just like the nutrition side of it, and how they're eating loads of just like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and pints of ice cream, and it's just, it couldn't be further from the truth. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think the best way for to kind of cut that idea is to go into a box and talk to a coach and start to understand on a less visual level.
Like the normal path is the following. Many want to lose weight when they start a gym, or especially when they start CrossFit. This is the path. Not everyone wants to lose weight when they come to CrossFit gym, but many do. So they come to a gym, they want to lose some weight, and they start training, and 6 months later they forgot that was the case.
Right.
Like it's not important anymore because there's so many other things that are inspiring them, they got new friends in one sense, like the community, but also like all these new things, learning new things about yourself, like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, and those things become more important than, you know, your body weight.
Right.
And especially that's also something that really like changes as when people come here, they talk about body weight and they want to lose body weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, let's cut off your leg and you're going to lose body weight. You mean you want to lose fat?
Right.
Like, yeah, okay. So that's a different conversation. But just losing body weight is not like really good goal. It's one measurement, but we want to look at so many different points, like, okay, body fat is one, your lean body composition. We want to look at body composition at all, like your hip to waist ratio, those kind of things to distinguish how healthy you are. And you know, since we're not measuring, we're not like a aesthetics kind of sport, we don't measure how big biceps or legs are or so on. We can measure some points, like we say, like the thigh or something like that, to have an idea of where maybe fat mass is lost. So that can be definitely like a one measurement tool, but it's just one point. And then we look at the performance too, like, are you getting faster, stronger? Is your performance actually going up? Because if you're just losing weight and your performance goes also down the basement, and it's like, you're basically killing yourself.
Right.
You're doing you're stagnating. That's like not a good idea. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. The next misconception, kind of to piggyback off this, is that CrossFit is dangerous and that you'll always be injured or you'll get injuries.
Yeah. That's I'm laughing a bit because I have a specific thought about that that I'm gonna jump into in a second. But to start with, we have to look at the evidence of that claim. So there was actually a study about this where they looked at how many injuries and stuff like that. And this study was very poorly done in, I think it was the Netherlands. They did it in one box or two boxes. Not too many athletes were participating. It was like a questionnaire. So it was, people just make up whatever. And in that case, it said, I don't know if it was like 18% had an injury in 1 or 2 years of training. And the CrossFit, like the HQ, they repelled this, and they said, like, show us the evidence, and then, or show us your study and how you did it. And it basically got blown out of the water as just a very bad, poorly done study by some, somebody who just wanted to get his degree, I guess.
Okay.
But this is how science works. Like, you have somebody doing a bad study and somebody doing it better, and then you repel it, and you try to try to show that again, or more studies to it. But we can just take that number. If we say this study is right, then we can take the study and we can compare it to jogging, right? Now, the most people that just run, they do the most simplest thing that you can do. It doesn't require much anything. We talked about this. You don't need to be strong. You don't need to be fast. You don't need to be coordinated. You don't need to have any kind of exceptional balance. Just jogging.
Right.
And here you have the statistics of 80% people getting injured in their first year of jogging. So people people get injured because if you look at jogging, because they overdo it, because their body is so sedentary that they're unfit, and they go too hard, and the body tries to adapt and gets injured, and then you continue, and then your body gets stronger, and then you continue, and then suddenly you can actually start running a bit faster if you don't give up. Then there are other like caveats that some people have really so poor mobility that it just gets worse from jogging and running, so they actually start to wear down their joints from that. But that's a different conversation. Now looking at CrossFit, again, like when you do this kind of studies, is you need to understand what CrossFit is and how affiliates work. There is no one version of CrossFit in the world, meaning and I like to bring this analogy between CrossFit affiliates and like an architect's office or so on. Now on the street we have like 20 architects, and my question to you is, what makes you go to that architect and not that architect? And it's usually, well, they are specialized in that kind of architecture that I'm looking for. And I'm like, exactly, that's how CrossFit also works. You have different kind of CrossFit places that have different kind of, architects. Programs, but also how it's constructed, how it's built up.
Right.
And there is the CrossFit method inside all of these. That means like the basic principles of understanding what fitness is and so on. The basic understanding of core to extremity and trying to be as effective as possible, I guess, with training. But at the end, like every place is different. So you see this is different kind of programs in most of the CrossFit studios. There's no owner that is the same. There is many like similarities in how things develop inside a box, which is so interesting because it really tells us so much about us humans. It tells us so much about like these ingrained ways of how the human being is developed and how we interact in a social field, how hierarchies are built in society. And you can see this all in a box. And this is why it also tends to have the same kind of stories, similar stories in many boxes, but every character is, of course, different.
Right.
What I want to say is that when you do a study, you need to do one study on each box. You can't do a CrossFit study.
Right.
Because it doesn't really tell us so much, that much. But we can just talk about what our box, and as I see it, and this is something I also have from like Kelly Starrett, is I actually see our gym more as a lab. So it's a laboratory of experiments where we constantly test things out, and we can see like how is the performance of people depending on their age, gender, body weight, all those like metrics we can play with and see if there's any correlation. We have the mobility parts to it, and all those things tells us like what kind of performance people can do. And then going outside of that is looking at other like health metrics and so on. We don't have all of them, but I mean, that would be the best lab. It would be to have like all the blood work of every athlete and just see how much better everything becomes, like
Right.
your resting heart rate and so on and so on. And I did this just general question to our members a while back ago, and or not only members, but like on my Instagram, I just asked people, what's your resting heart rate? And everyone that did CrossFit had like 20 BPMs lower than normal people.
Wow. Yeah.
So again, that's no evidence, but I think there's some grain of truth in that. So I would expect us, if we would do like a intake on everyone, like, okay, your blood pressure, your resting heart rate and everything, and we would map those out, and then we will recheck those every year. Now we would see so much improvement.
Yep.
That you can't see on the scale.
Right.
And I think that's the big gift that we are actually giving people.
Yeah.
And that is also maybe not that appreciated, but that's on us for sure. But I mean, that's the really the coolest thing. And from our box, like, do we have some injuries? We have this, you can put yourself like a notification in your app if you're injured, and like in the last year we had maybe 2 or 3 people reporting an injury, but I also know that like some there are some small aches here and there and so on happening, and yeah, it's totally expected, like, because people come here and they're already destroyed.
Right.
Bad posture, bad this, bad knee, ripped ACL, PCL, lower back injuries, and so on. And most injuries simply don't happen in the gym. They happen outside.
Right.
And usually before they come here. And the good thing that the training gives you is that it actually brings back capacity and brings back the it brings back the motoric control of stuff that you've lost. One very common issue within CrossFit, or not CrossFit, but within athletes, is they have shoulder issues from doing CrossFit. And I think what that is that CrossFit really exposes bad posture,
right,
and bad, years of bad behavior. If you have full mobility and you're not a desktop warrior, you will not have issues with your shoulders. However, it's like, we test the body, and if you have some kind of weak link, that's going to get exposed.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that it's it doesn't get destroyed forever, but it can get exposed. And the thing that we're trying to teach people is, like, you don't train through pain. Like that's a very bad idea. If you have issues with your shoulder or pain in your shoulder, you don't train through it. It's just going to make it worse. You have to fix the root cause of that pain, which is usually something connected with your mobility. So, and it's not like super simple. So this is also a misconception, I guess, is that you think you have a problem with your knee. And what do people do? They want to do knee surgery, right? And I mean, looking at runners, for example, they get destroyed knees, but so they think, I have to fix the knee. But is it really the knee causing the problem? And in 99% of the times, it's not because you were born with a bad knee, your mom gave you a pretty perfect knee, but you have to look at how does it look like in your hip, how does it look like in your ankles, and 99% of the times it is because you're sitting 16 hours a day. Your hips are simply shortened from all that sitting, and then you go out for a run and you do that, if it's a 10K, well, it's 10,000 steps with your knee in the wrong position all the time. So you're going to cause yourself an injury, pain first, and then you train, you run with the pain, and then you smack some ibuprofen to reduce the inflammation. That's a bad idea. Suddenly, like you reduce the inflammation, and the inflammation is important for healing, and then you go out for a run again, and then it just destroys your knee because now you're numb, and you're also don't having the natural response to heal the problem.
Right.
So you're just wearing out the joint.
Right.
Again, is the root cause really the knee? No, it was the hip. And what made the hip that stiff? Well, it was the sitting. So you need to fix the root causes of that, of those problems.
So how can people differentiate between, just a simple, not always so simple, but just this, muscle pain, and a true injury?
Well, I think it's
or something that could become a bigger injury.
I think we feel if it's right or wrong pain.
Yeah.
So if you feel pain and it feels bad, then it's bad. And if you feel pain, like it feels good, like we say from muscle pain, there are different levels of muscle pain too. So if you have soreness, muscle soreness, and you feel like it's kind of, you feel that, and it's like, but it feels quite good, then it probably is good. But then you can have a muscle soreness that is like, I can't put on my t-shirt.
Right.
That's bad.
Yeah.
You should not aim for having muscle soreness either. So like it's just gonna inhibit you from actually putting more work into the table the next day. So it's not like a it's not like a very good idea to always go for that. Even though I think we can create like an addiction to it, and in psychology this is very, very known. Like you because there's you can school people to like pain because they get something out of it. It's like the classical psychological what's it called? I'm blanking here now, but basically you punch somebody in the face and then you give him a sweet, and then
the thing with the dog,
the dog and the bell. It's kind of connected, but basically you just teach the body there's going to be some kind of a reward, and that's why then you start to connect this pain to something good. And I don't think I think CrossFit is very safe, and it depends a lot on where you go for training and so on. But speaking of pain, what I wanted to also mention was that I think there are too many babies out there too that haven't grown up understanding that you need to get a bit harder. You need to be a bit more resilient, and this is kind of the like we look at now, when pushing yourself a bit out of your comfort zone and so on. I think just too many people are not too much in their comfort zone, and they are why that is bad is because they're simply not getting the most of their life. Because it's not about the workout, but it's actually to develop your character as a person,
right.
and to be a bit more courageous, and and taking some, if you start doing some hard workouts, you're going to be able to have tougher conversations. That's it. You're going to have a better salary, wage. You're going to have a better life. So you need to grew up, and it's not easy because many are overprotected. They grow up in this la-la land where everything is so comfy and
cushy
and cushy, and we think that the human condition is kind of this way. We try all our best to not have to do anything,
right?
So the best thing is if I can just, if we could just not spend any energy at all and just get, food and sleep all the time.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that ends up in like the in a very tragic world for us, like mentally and everything. But I definitely encourage people to think about that if they're a bit too comfortable, a bit too cushy, and if they're in a la-la land. Training, whatever, if you're in a la-la land, I'm not saying you have to destroy your la-la land, but I'm saying you can grow tougher. You can start to endure some good pain, and that's gonna just give you so much more options in life.
Yeah, it does. It certainly does. Build character, right? Like I often say, like before a hard workout, before one of these long chippers, I'll say to somebody like, "Oh, see you on the other side," and when I really think about it, it's like I'm gonna gain so much more than just a good sweat, just physically, what I'm gonna gain from that workout, just that workout. And yeah, you're right. I think people just really want to be comfortable, really want to be comfortable. It's nice, it's pleasant, but yeah, you build a tougher skin, and you're much more resilient in other aspects of your life. So
yeah, and I think this is kind of you get a bit more. It doesn't have to be a 1 hour workout. That's not what I'm talking about either. It's like just now when you're in a lockdown, you're in a uncomfortable place, or you're traveling. It's not a lockdown and you're traveling, but you don't get to the gym or whatever. Like, show me fucking 50 push-ups on the airplane. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Like being a bit more confident and taking those like uncomfortable decisions of like, okay, I'm at the airport, everyone's gonna watch, I'm gonna do my 100 squats here with my backpack or with my traveling bag, like, and I don't fucking care. And I think that's also one thing that builds your character. And I like to think of, like, if you look into like the realm of business, is that the most crazy businessmen, they do this. Like they don't care so much about what others think. If you care about what others think, that's going to be put a hold on you, right? So getting a bit more courageous, and then you have to have those hard conversations, maybe explaining why you're doing push-ups on the airplane.
So to kind of continue this conversation, the next topic, I guess, is you have to be fit already to start CrossFit. What do you think about that?
Yeah, very common. And my analogy has always been like, well, the Bundesliga, or the like football, the Premier League, and so on. and you watch those games, like, yeah, and but you also play football yourself, right? Yeah. So why didn't you think that you need to be as good as Zlatan or as Ronaldinho or Neymar or whatever they're called when you started playing football, like, or Ronaldo? Like, no, you start playing where at your level, and
right.
And do you start with a 90-minute game to start with? Like, no, you start with looking at the ball, and then you kind of kick the ball a couple of times. And the same thing is kind of with CrossFit too. As you start watching how it kind of works. You feel the ball, you kick the ball, and then you understand, I have to run after the ball, and then you start running, and then you develop your running and your balance and your skills, and all those things then start to build up, and then all of a sudden you can't think about anything else. No, but you definitely you should not go out in a Premier League game if you never played football before. And the same thing with CrossFit is that you shouldn't go to the CrossFit games if you've never done any fitness before. And you should not go to the gym and do Fran by yourself in the gym without knowing anything, and to just just do that. Or like, I'm going to lift 200 kilos of deadlifts without ever done a deadlift before. No, you have to start somewhere, and how you start is I mean, depending on a bit of your coach and who you have a coach as, and I mean, if it's here, the way we discovered is the best is to start with the coach one-on-one, because that allows us to give some time to actually feel the ball, kick the ball, and stuff like that. We did this in a group way too, and what happens is that there's not enough attention, like time for attention for each individual in that sense. And then if you don't have a gym, then there are plenty of coaches out there that can guide you. So I would say one good way to start is, you need to have information, you need to educate yourself a bit, and if you are very unfit and so on, the easiest and fastest way is, of course, to have a coach on your side. Now, the cheapest way, and the thing that's going to cost you the most time, and probably speaking of injuries and so on, well, that's going to be to do it your own way, and then you're going to discover all the faults and do all the mistakes and learn by that. And it's going to take you a couple of years, and then
I mean, it's really interesting how you kind of started. I mean, my brother plays hockey with the Jewish Community Center League, and, he's by no means a, rock star hockey player, but, he enjoys it. He's not going to go, for like tryouts to higher leagues because he's not at that level. So this thing that I hear so much from people, I want to get fitter before I, join the CrossFit box. It's like, maybe there's not enough, and I know, there was so much talk about this in the level 1 about, like what CrossFit is, and that it's high, or that it's functional movements, right? So, I mean, your grandmother could do it, a form of CrossFit because it's squatting, right?
Yeah.
Or, but this notion that, I already have to be at a certain level to even start, it's like the door's closed right away. And
I mean, again, what we're teaching people is like fundamental human movement,
right?
Which is like something everyone needs to be able to do.
Right.
And it's the only thing that is going to vary is like the degree of intensity. So if somebody is very old, their intensity of the workout is going to be totally different. However, I think I really like this idea of I could actually compete with my mom or my grandma. So we're going to do a workout, which is going to be Fran, for example. And for my mom, that would be, probably just squats and or thrusters with a dowel and ring rows. And I'm going to do Fran RX. And I will need to be like really trying to do my best to beat her.
Right. Yeah.
And she's going to have a great workout too.
Right.
So, and yeah, then when we do this, she does this every year. Well, suddenly that dowel is not going to be a dowel anymore. It's going to be a barbell. And then, the ring rows is going to be jumping pull-ups. And, a couple of years later, it's going to be pull-ups and it's going to be like a heavy barbell. So, yeah, it's, also if you're old, you're going to start to see progress.
Right.
Which is also very cool. Like some people think that like I'm 65, it's already over. It's like you have no idea how fit you can be when you're 80 if you do something now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So that brings us to the next topic of how CrossFit can serve you in maybe your chosen sport. If you are, let's say, a semi-professional or professional cyclist or tennis player or rugby player, how CrossFit can help, how it can add to another sport.
Yeah. So this is from my own experience, like playing ice hockey for 20 years plus. And my perception was that when I started with CrossFit, like, well, we did a lot of like strength training and stuff like that, and we had a pretty good like coach who was actually we had an off-season coach that was national champion in weightlifting and in I think it was powerlifting actually. But anyway, so we did some weightlifting, we did some cleans, we did squats and stuff, but we had no idea what we were doing. Like it was, we did some kind of circuit training and stuff like that, but in sports in general, like there's so little idea behind optimizing athletes' output in that sense. No, you just I don't know, you train a lot and you get better at the sport for sure, but the missing things that I see in sports training is that we actually get in CrossFit is this really understanding core to extremity, and then also the full range of motion. Like if you can squat ass to grass, or you can do handstand walk, or heavy overhead squat and stuff like that, those things will transfer to all the other sports.
Right.
And we can look at, for example, swimming. So if you're a swimmer, you need to be able to have like a really good overhead mobility. However, if you're a bit lacking in overhead mobility, you train in some way that kind of makes it not possible to extend the shoulder or the elbow and get your elbow close to your head and stuff like that. You're going to put your shoulder in the wrong position every time you take a stroke. And that after a while, just like the running, your shoulder is going to blow out. So that's why you see a lot of swimmers with blown out shoulders and they quit swimming.
Right.
So that's one thing that, as a swimmer, you might not train that. You don't train your mobility in swimming per se. However, if you're doing CrossFit and you want to improve your lifts, the easiest way to improve your lifts and to get more weight on the bar is to actually just get more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about getting stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I see most sports would really gain from. And then going back to just this mental toughness thing is one thing, just to get a bit more badass.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to help you in the sports. And third, also just the work capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we see this from sports people doing CrossFit for the first time. They're bringing my mom back into the picture. Is like my mom would kick the most, like a lot of professional ass, because they simply don't do full range of motion work. And
right.
They're maybe very good at running a marathon, but they can't lift anything off the floor.
Right.
And yeah.
Is there also something to the fact that, in professional sports, you're kind of always training what you do best at. And in CrossFit, because there's so many of the different domains, you're kind of, you were taught to train our weaknesses also. So they're all kind of at a good level, but in sports, like I'm not very good with sports analogies, but with sports, you're always training to win, right? And training what you do best at, whether it's speed or
it's a different mindset.
Yeah. So how can CrossFit add to that?
Yeah. Again, it's a bit like you said. It just adds to your
toolbox.
Yeah. And that's just going to give you more options also in your sport.
Yeah.
Now in sports, it is more like a specific, like you get specifically good at something within your sport usually, and you train for that, and then you kind of add on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
And like in sports, it's like professional sports, it's not about you becoming the most healthy you. Mm-hmm. No, it's just about winning the game.
Right.
And if that means, you see this in cycling, like if that means you have to take drugs, everyone is on drugs.
Yeah.
If that means that you're going to wear out your, because of this, sports just has this like strange movement patterns, and you do it repeatedly. It's like, is that going to be good in a long term? Like, it doesn't matter, because it's all about you winning the game when you're 20, and what happens with you when you're 22? Who cares?
Right. Yeah.
Gymnastics, the same. Like, you're just being the best gymnast. Well, you have a lifespan between 15 and 20, and then it's done. And then you have like all these issues after that. And to be honest, like if you look at CrossFit as a sport, I can definitely see that also happening. A lot of like CrossFit athletes, they're training for the optimal performance, and that might, cause people to burn out on both edges, from both sides. But the only thing that is kind of surprising is that there are a lot of like older athletes that are actually getting better, and they're still so good, even though they're getting older and older. Even though they're not training that much anymore, they're still getting better. It's like, okay, it seems like, you can do this with very high intensity for very long, and it's actually just, you're just building a brick.
Yeah.
A brick.
Yeah.
For each year you're doing this. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Like CrossFit is such a young sport, so we'll see like how people like Haley Adams behave in, when they're twice their age, meaning like when they're 22. No, but when she's 35 or 40, how will she look like?
Right.
We don't really know right now, but I mean, she puts in a lot of effort and intensity now, and we'll see if she what happens like when you continue to do that. We look at the athletes that have been doing this for like 10 years already. Again, they're mostly just still improving, so it's pretty impressive, and they're by far having much more work capacity than anyone in the world. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I think that covers a lot of topics today.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
I guess if we forgot anything, then let us know. Somebody, you can write us.
Yeah, send us questions.
Yeah.
We can do episodes with your questions specific to CrossFit or not specific.
Yeah.
A grab bag.
Yeah, a grab bag. Yeah. No. So yeah, we have holidays now.
Yes, we do.
So let's enjoy those, and I guess we'll try to be back after the holidays.
Yeah. See you next year.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
Ciao.